If you are over 60 years old, stop for a moment and pay very close attention to what I am about to explain to you, because it can completely change the way you see your health, especially the health of your legs and your circulation. I am telling you this based on decades of clinical experience observing the exact same pattern repeating in thousands of patients, people who believed they were doing enough simply by walking every day, but who were silently losing strength, balance, and independence without realizing it, until one day the body began to show more serious signs, such as constant swelling, a feeling of heaviness in the legs, tingling, difficulty lifting the feet, and even instability when walking. At that point, the problem was often already too advanced. The big truth that almost no one tells you is that circulation in the legs is one of the most neglected systems in the human body after the age of 60. This happens because it does not depend only on the heart. Unlike other regions, the legs need an extra mechanism to help the blood return, and that mechanism is the muscles, especially the calf muscles, which act like an auxiliary pump, pushing the blood back up against gravity. When these muscles stop being properly activated, the system begins to fail slowly. And here is the most common mistake I see every day: people rely only on walking as a solution, believing that it is enough to maintain leg health. But modern studies show something different. Walking activates only a superficial part of the muscular system, not reaching the deeper circulation channels, the ones responsible for delivering real oxygen to muscle tissues. When these channels begin to fail, the first signs appear subtly, such as numbness, tingling, or a cold sensation in the feet, signs that many people ignore. But what truly surprised me over the years was observing what happens when we apply correct and targeted stimuli. Simple exercises, when done the right way, can deeply activate circulation within minutes, increasing blood flow, reducing swelling, and restoring energy to the legs in an impressive way. And this is not theory, this is something that has already been measured in exams, tested in laboratories, and repeatedly confirmed in real patients. And that is exactly what you are about to learn now, a sequence of simple, safe, and extremely effective exercises, approved by specialists, that do not require a gym, do not require complex equipment, and can be done in your own home in just a few minutes a day. Let's start with the first exercise, which may seem simple at first glance, but when performed correctly, becomes one of the most powerful tools for activating leg circulation. Exercise: calf raises with progressive contraction. Stand up with your feet aligned at hip width. Keep your weight evenly distributed on the front of your feet and begin slowly raising your heels, mentally counting to 3 as you go up. Feel the calf contraction happening in a firm and controlled way. When you reach the highest point, hold that position for a full 2 seconds, as if you were intentionally squeezing the muscles. This moment is crucial because it activates the mechanism that pushes blood back to the body. Now comes the part that most people get completely wrong: the descent. Instead of simply letting your body drop, you should lower yourself slowly, resisting gravity for 3 or 4 seconds, keeping tension in the muscles the entire time, without fully relaxing when you touch the ground. This control during the descent is what strengthens muscle fibers and improves circulation efficiency. When you perform this full cycle, controlled ascent, pause at the top, and slow descent, you are creating a pumping effect much stronger than walking, compressing the deep veins and forcefully pushing blood upward, helping to prevent buildup, swelling, and even more serious circulation-related problems. Over time, this constant stimulus does something even more important: it begins to create new circulation pathways, small vessels that develop to improve blood flow, something the body does naturally when it receives the right stimulus. This means more oxygen reaching the muscles, more energy, and greater endurance for daily activities. Ideally, you should perform 3 sets of 15 repetitions, twice a day, once in the morning to activate circulation after hours of rest, and once at the end of the day to combat the buildup of blood in the legs caused by time spent standing or sitting. And the best part is that you can do this anywhere: in the kitchen, in the bathroom, while brushing your teeth, or even while waiting for something to be ready. Many patients report feeling a sensation of warmth or mild tingling in their legs shortly after the exercise, and this is not a coincidence. It is the blood starting to circulate more intensely in areas that were previously almost stagnant. And this is just the beginning, because the next exercise goes even deeper, activating circulation in a way that few people imagine is possible, especially for those who spend many hours sitting throughout the day. Now pay attention, because what I am about to show you addresses one of the biggest silent problems after the age of 60, something that almost no one notices, but that directly affects circulation, energy, and even brain health. This problem has a simple name but a huge impact: excessive sitting. But there is an extremely simple movement that directly combats this problem and, when done correctly, creates a double pumping effect in the legs. Exercise, leg extension with ankle flexion. Sit on a firm chair, keeping your spine straight and your feet flat on the floor. Now slowly extend one of your legs in front of you, keeping your thigh supported on the seat. When your leg is fully extended, pull your toes toward your shin with as much force as possible, as if you were trying to touch your toes to your leg. This detail makes all the difference, because by combining leg extension with ankle flexion, you activate not only the thigh muscles but also the muscles in the front of the lower leg and the calf, creating a contraction pattern that compresses blood vessels from different angles at the same time. Now hold this position for a full 3 seconds, keeping tension throughout the entire leg. Then slowly lower it, taking about 4 seconds, without fully relaxing your foot during the movement. This maintains constant pressure on the vessels and prevents blood from accumulating again. Repeat this movement 10 times with one leg and immediately switch to the other without resting, creating a continuous activation cycle. Do 4 full rounds alternating legs. This continuous pattern creates a constant pumping effect that significantly increases blood flow speed. And here is what makes this exercise so powerful: it works exactly where most people need it, circulation during sitting. While you are in this position, this movement replaces the lack of muscle activity, keeping the blood moving and preventing buildup. In addition, it strengthens the muscles around the knee, improves joint stability, and activates the anterior tibial muscle, which is essential for lifting the foot while walking, something many people gradually lose over time without realizing it. Many patients report that after a few days of practicing this exercise, they begin to feel their feet warmer, with better color and less swelling. This happens because blood is finally reaching the tissues more efficiently. And there is another important benefit: this movement helps prevent joint stiffness because it keeps the knee and ankle in controlled motion, preventing the joints from becoming stiff after long periods of inactivity. If you want to further enhance the results, you can add light resistance, such as an elastic band or a small ankle weight. But even without that, the exercise is already extremely effective when performed with control and consistency. Now think about this: you may have spent years believing you needed complex exercises to improve your health, when in reality, simple movements like this, done at the right time, can create profound changes in how your body functions. And that is exactly where things begin to become truly transformative. And here is the reality that many ignore: after the age of 60, the body loses muscle mass at an accelerated rate, especially in the glutes and thighs. This loss is not reversed by walking, because walking does not generate enough load to stimulate muscle growth or maintenance. That is where one of the most important exercises of all comes in. Exercise, controlled sit to stand. Stand in front of a sturdy chair, with your feet slightly apart, a bit wider than hip width, and your toes slightly pointed outward. Before any movement, think about pushing your hips back, as if someone were pulling your waist backward with an invisible rope. This detail protects your knees and properly activates the right muscles. Lower yourself slowly, keeping your chest open and your spine aligned, without letting your body drop. Control the movement until your glutes lightly touch the chair seat. Do not fully relax, just touch and hold for 1 second while maintaining muscle tension. Now rise again, pushing through your feet, especially your heels, and strongly contracting your glutes at the end of the movement. Exhale as you rise. This helps stabilize your body. This exercise may seem simple, but it activates the largest muscle groups in the body at the same time: quadriceps, glutes, and stabilizing muscles. This creates a stimulus that goes far beyond strength. It improves glucose control, increases insulin sensitivity, and contributes to metabolic health. In addition, there is a direct effect on the brain. When you perform this movement in a controlled way, your nervous system must coordinate balance, strength, and positioning, creating new neural connections that help keep cognitive function active. Another key point is bone health. By performing this movement, you create mechanical load in the hip and femur region, stimulating the maintenance of bone density, something essential for preventing fractures. Now see how to apply it in practice. Perform 10 to 12 repetitions. Do 2 to 3 sets. Always maintain control of the movement. If you want to increase the intensity, you can hold a light weight against your chest or increase the lowering time, making the exercise more challenging without compromising safety. And here is something I need you to clearly understand. This movement alone already defines a person's level of independence. People who can perform this exercise easily tend to maintain autonomy for much longer, while those who struggle begin to rely on support for simple tasks. Now imagine doing this every day, consistently. Your body begins to adapt, your muscles become stronger, your movements become safer, and your confidence increases. And that is exactly what we want to build here. A body that responds. A body that supports. A body that protects you. Because the goal is not just to live longer. It is to live better. And the next exercise will take this even further, because now we are going to work on something that most people lose without realizing it. Balance and the connection between body and brain. And that is where everything truly starts to come together. Now we have reached a point that clearly separates people who age safely from those who live in fear of falling, and that point is balance, something often ignored until it starts to fail. When that happens, it is not just a detail, it becomes one of the main factors in the loss of independence after the age of 60. What is most concerning is that loss of balance does not happen suddenly, it begins silently. Small signs like insecurity while walking, needing support when climbing a step, or slight instability when changing direction all indicate that the system responsible for controlling the body in space is weakening. And this system involves three main parts: your eyes, your inner ear, and the receptors in your muscles and joints. When these elements stop working in harmony, the body loses the ability to react quickly to any imbalance. And here is the good news: this can be trained. Exercise single leg balance with conscious control. Stand near a wall or chair for support. Keep an upright posture, your chest open, and your gaze fixed on a point in front of you. Now lift one foot off the ground, even if only a few centimeters, and try to maintain your balance in that position. At first, it is completely normal to feel your ankle shaking or your body swaying. This is not weakness, it is your neuromuscular system being reactivated, with stabilizing muscles that were inactive starting to work again. Try to hold this position for 20 to 30 seconds, then switch legs. Repeat 2 to 3 times on each side. Over time, you can progress by reducing hand support, slightly closing your eyes, or making small movements with your arms, gradually increasing the challenge. This exercise activates deep muscles that are rarely used in everyday activities, especially around the ankle, knee, and hip, creating a solid foundation for the body. In addition, it directly stimulates the brain because it requires constant adjustments to maintain balance, strengthening communication between the nervous system and the muscles. And here is something extremely important. This type of training improves reaction ability. If you trip, your body will have more speed and control to correct the movement and prevent a fall. Many patients report that after a few weeks of practicing this exercise, they begin to feel safer while walking, more confident when climbing stairs, and less dependent on support. And that is priceless. Because confidence in your own body completely changes the way you live. Now stop and think. We are not just talking about an exercise. We are talking about regaining control over your own body. And this is something many people believe is lost with age, but in reality, it simply stops being stimulated. And when you start stimulating it the right way again, the body responds. It always responds. Now, with circulation activated, strength being built, and balance being restored, we are ready for the next level. Because there is a factor that connects all of this, your ability to breathe well. And that is exactly what we are going to work on next, something that directly impacts your energy, your disposition, and even your cardiovascular health. When you understand this, you realize that everything in the body is connected in a much deeper way than it seems. Now let's talk about something that few people directly associate with strength, balance, and even longevity, but that is at the center of all of it, your breathing. Because it does not matter if you have strong muscles, good circulation, and balance if your body is not being properly oxygenated. Over the years, respiratory capacity tends to gradually decline, often without the person realizing it. But there is a simple and extremely effective way to reverse this process. Exercise, wall push-up with chest expansion. Stand facing a wall, place your hands at shoulder height, slightly wider than shoulder width. Now step your feet back while keeping your heels on the ground, creating a slight body incline. From this position, slowly bend your elbows, bringing your chest toward the wall. As you do this, gently pull your shoulders back, allowing your chest to open. Feel your shoulder blades moving closer together. This creates space for your lungs to expand. Before touching the wall, exhale through your mouth and push your body back to the starting position, keeping your body aligned without letting your hips drop or your neck tense up. The movement should be controlled, with full focus on posture and breathing. Perform 10 to 12 repetitions. Do 2 to 3 sets. This exercise strengthens the chest, arms, and back, but its most important benefit lies in improving respiratory capacity. By opening the chest, you allow the lungs to receive more air with less effort, increasing oxygenation throughout the body. In addition, this movement stimulates circulation in the upper body, helping maintain the elasticity of blood vessels and contributing to heart and brain health. Another important point is core activation. The abdominal and spinal muscles work together to keep the body stable during the movement, which helps reduce lower back pain and improves posture in daily life. And there is something even deeper happening here. When you combine movement with controlled breathing, you regulate the nervous system, reduce stress, and improve your sense of well-being. Many patients report feeling more energetic, lighter in their bodies, and even experiencing better sleep after including this type of exercise in their routine. And this makes perfect sense because the body is finally receiving the oxygen it needs to function properly. Now stop and observe what you have built so far. You have activated your circulation, strengthened your legs, improved your balance, and now you are increasing your respiratory capacity. This is not just a sequence of exercises, it is a complete system to restore how your body functions. And there is still an essential element missing, something that connects all of this and determines the quality of your movements: stability. Because without stability, strength cannot be sustained. Without stability, balance cannot be maintained. And that is exactly what we are going to work on in the next section, where everything begins to integrate on an even deeper level, and that is where the body truly starts to change. That is why we are now going to work on an exercise that directly activates these muscles. Exercise: hip bridge with stabilization. Lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor at hip width. Keep your arms at your sides and your spine neutral. Now slowly lift your hips, forming a straight line between your shoulders, hips, and knees. At the top of the movement, strongly contract your glutes and hold the position for 2 to 3 seconds. But here is the most important detail: do not let your hips drop or rotate, keep everything stable, as if your body were a single unit. Now slowly lower yourself, controlling the movement until you return to the starting position. Perform 10 to 12 repetitions. Do 2 to 3 sets. This exercise activates the glutes, hamstrings, and deep abdominal muscles, creating a solid foundation for the body. But let's take it a step further. When you feel comfortable, you can progress this movement. Exercise: marching bridge. In the elevated position, slowly lift one foot off the ground, bringing your knee toward your chest. Keep your hips completely stable, hold for 2 seconds, then return and alternate. This progression turns the exercise into a true stability challenge, forcing the body to control movement without compensation. If your hips drop or rotate, that indicates exactly where the weakness is, and that is where you should focus. This type of training corrects imbalances between the sides of the body, something extremely common after the age of 60, where one side ends up compensating for the other, causing overload and pain. In addition, it improves coordination between the muscles and the nervous system, allowing the body to respond better to any movement. And here is the most important point. Stability is what transforms strength into safety. You may have strong muscles, but if you cannot control them, the risk of injury remains high. When you develop stability, your movements become more precise, more efficient, and much safer. And this directly impacts your life. Getting out of bed becomes easier. Walking becomes safer. Climbing stairs becomes natural. Now notice how everything is connecting. Circulation improves. Strength increases. Balance develops. Breathing expands. And stability supports all of it. That is the real secret. It is not a single exercise. It is the right combination. And now we are ready for the next step. Because there is one final element that completes this entire system. Something that will transform the way you move in your daily life. coordination. And that is exactly what we are going to work on in the next section, where the body stops just reacting and begins to anticipate. And that is the moment when you begin to recover not only strength, but complete confidence in your movements. Now we have reached the point that transforms everything you have built so far into real movement in daily life: coordination. Because it does not matter if you have strength, balance, and stability if your body cannot integrate all of it in a fluid, coordinated, and automatic way. Coordination is what allows you to react quickly, adjust your body without thinking, and move safely in any situation. Over the years, this ability begins to decline, not because the body can no longer do it, but because it has stopped being stimulated. And here is something important you need to understand: coordination is not just something of the brain, it depends on constant communication between muscles, joints, and the nervous system. When this communication weakens, movements become slower, less secure, and more rigid. That is why many people start to feel stiff, having difficulty changing direction, climbing a step, or even reacting to a small loss of balance. But this can be reversed. Exercise: coordinated marching with knee lift. Stand upright with your gaze fixed forward. Now slowly lift one knee toward your chest while maintaining balance on the other leg. Hold for 1 second, then lower it in a controlled manner. Now alternate to the other side, creating a continuous but controlled rhythm, as if you were marching consciously. The secret here is not speed, it is control. Each movement should be done with full attention, feeling your body, maintaining balance, and controlling posture. Perform 10 to 15 repetitions on each side. Do 2 to 3 sets. This exercise activates multiple systems at the same time. It works on balance, strength, stability, and coordination, while also stimulating the brain to process information more quickly and efficiently. And here is something very interesting. When you lift your knee, your body must fully stabilize the supporting leg, activating deep muscles in the hip and core. At the same time, the brain must adjust body positioning in real time. This creates an extremely powerful neuromuscular stimulus. If you want to progress, you can add arm movements, such as raising the opposite arm to the leg, further increasing complexity and challenge. And over time, you begin to notice clear changes: faster movements, more precision, and greater confidence. And this directly reflects in your life. Walking becomes lighter, climbing stairs more natural, and reacting to unexpected situations much easier. Now think about this: your body was not made just to move, it was made to adapt. And when you stimulate this adaptation, you begin to recover abilities that once seemed lost. Coordination is what connects everything. It is what transforms strength into movement, balance into safety, and stability into confidence. And now we are reaching the end of this process, because the next step is where everything comes together, where the body stops just improving and begins to transform in a lasting way. There is a final factor that defines all of this: intelligent consistency. And that is exactly what we are going to conclude in the next section, where you will understand how to turn all of this into a habit that truly changes your life. Now we have reached the most important point of this entire journey, because everything you have learned so far only begins to produce real results when there is consistency, and not just any consistency, but intelligent consistency, adapted to your body, your pace, and your reality. There is no point in doing everything perfectly for 2 days and then stopping for weeks. What transforms the body after 60 are small actions repeated daily with intention and control. And here is a truth that few people understand until it is too late: the body does not respond to isolated intensity, it responds to frequency, to patterns, to the consistent stimulus you provide every day, even if only for a few minutes. And this completely changes how you should view exercise at this stage of life. It is no longer about long, exhausting, or complex workouts. It is about creating a simple, efficient, and repeatable system, something you can do without mental effort, without needing motivation every day. Because when something depends on motivation, it does not last, but when it becomes a habit, it happens naturally. Now think about this: everything you have built so far can be done in less than 15 minutes a day, and that is enough to activate circulation, strengthen muscles, improve balance, expand breathing, develop stability, and train coordination. In other words, you do not need more time, you need more consistency. This complete sequence takes only a few minutes, but it activates almost the entire body in an intelligent way. And here is the most important detail: do not do it fast, do it with control, because the quality of movement is far more important than the quantity. Now let's talk about progression, because the body needs to evolve. In the first week, focus only on learning the movements correctly without worrying about intensity. In the second week, slightly increase the execution time or the number of repetitions. In the third week, begin adding small challenges, such as holding longer at the top of movements or reducing support in balance exercises. Now stand up, make the first move, and allow your body to show you what it is still capable of. Because the truth is simple, you can still improve much more than you imagine. Now we reach the point where most people fail, not due to lack of ability, strength, or age, but due to lack of consistency. Understanding what needs to be done is only the first step. The real challenge is maintaining it every day in a consistent, simple way without relying on motivation. This is exactly where the difference between aging with autonomy or with limitations begins to quietly form, because the body responds to what you do repeatedly, not occasionally, and this needs to be very clear to you from now on. Now let's talk about something that can completely transform your routine without increasing your effort: habit anchoring. Instead of trying to fit exercises into specific times, you associate movements with activities that are already part of your day. For example, doing calf raises while brushing your teeth, practicing balance while waiting in the kitchen, or performing sit-to-stand before sitting down to watch TV. This way, exercise stops being an obligation and becomes a natural part of your routine. This is one of the most effective methods for maintaining consistency, because it removes the need to remember, plan, or rely on extreme discipline. You simply integrate movement into your day. Another key point is the perception of progress. Many people give up because they expect quick and visible changes, but the type of transformation you are building here is different. It happens from the inside out. First, you feel more stability, then you notice more ease in movement, and only then do more visible changes begin to appear. And this is extremely important, because it means the body is evolving in a solid, not superficial, way. Now imagine this over the course of months. You begin to get up more easily, walk more safely, feel less fatigue throughout the day, and have more confidence in your movements. This is not just physical improvement, it is quality of life. And here is something few people talk about: the emotional impact. When you feel your body responding, your mindset changes, you feel more capable, more independent, and more secure. This reduces fear, lowers anxiety, and increases your willingness to move even more. It is a positive cycle. Movement builds confidence, and confidence creates more movement. Now let's talk about consistency in real situations: days when you are not feeling well, days when you are tired, days when you lack motivation. On those days, you do not need to do everything, but you need to do something, even if it is just one exercise, even if it is for 2 minutes. Because what keeps the body active is not intensity, it is frequency. Now imagine a common scenario: you trip. Your body needs to react in fractions of a second. If this connection is strong, the response is fast and efficient. If not, the risk of falling increases. And that is exactly what you are training here: real prevention, not theoretical. Now I want you to understand something that can completely change how you act. You are not just exercising, you are preparing for the future. Every movement you make today is a guarantee that tomorrow will be easier. And that is priceless. Now pause for a moment and reflect. How many people do you know who have lost mobility over time? How many have become dependent on help? How many have stopped doing simple things? And how many could have avoided it with small daily changes? You now have this knowledge, and knowledge without action does not produce results. Now is the moment to decide: stay as you are or begin to change, even if it is small, even if it is simple, but begin. Because consistency builds everything, and your body still has an incredible capacity to adapt, more than you imagine. But it needs a signal, and that signal starts with you today, now, with the next movement you choose to make.